will welcome everybody that's here to this CARP webinar on scams and frauds. My name is Bill VanGorder, and I'm the Chief Advocacy and Education Officer for the Canadian Association of Retired Persons, also known as CARP. But I'm also a volunteer on the board of CARP Nova Scotia, and that's the role that I'm playing today. This event is being recorded, so when it's all over, if you want to review anything, or if you want to send the link to a friend or a relative who should see it too, we'll post it on Facebook. We'll send all of you the link in an email to everyone who registered, and it will also be available on our Facebook. So you'll be able to get it there and be able to enjoy it once again. Well, I think, Roy, we're ready to get away. Andrew is having some problem with his camera, so we will leave him, and hopefully the camera will work. But if it doesn't, then we'll hear Andrew's presentation, just not see his excellent PowerPoint that I've seen before behind him. So I'd like to introduce everybody to the chair of the CARP Nova Scotia Financial Security Committee, and somebody who has been involved in talking about and preventing frauds and scams for over 20 years. I know, because Roy and I have been working on that together over the years. But our chair is retired banker, so expert on such things, Roy Hayward. Roy?
Bill, I'm not sure there's an expert on this stuff. I tell you, I get more and more new ones almost every day, it seems. Anyway, on behalf of CARP Nova Scotia, I do welcome you to this webinar on frauds and scams. This is Fraud Prevention Month across Canada, so it's important that we have this today. But these topics, unfortunately, you know, they've been in the news so much lately, and with seniors especially. And the seniors across Canada being defrauded or scammed out of millions of dollars, and a lot in our own province of Nova Scotia. So the purpose of this webinar is to bring awareness of this growing problem to many seniors especially. And to achieve this, I'm pleased to introduce to you our panel today. First of all, Dianna Burns, who's with the Legal Information Society of Nova Scotia. Welcome, Dianna. And Andrew Joyce of the Nova Scotia RCMP, who is having problems with his computer today, but he's going to be at least on audio later on. And David Harrison from the Nova Scotia Securities Commission. Welcome, David. Our panelists will show you how to identify, report, and stop scams and frauds. And so you've already met Bill VanGorder, and he's told about himself. So now I'm going to turn it over to him to moderate this session. Bill?
Very good. Well, thank you, Roy, and congratulations to you and your committee for setting up this event today. I see some members of your committee are here listening in, and welcome to all of you. You will have the opportunity to ask questions, but we would ask you to do that by putting them in the chat at the bottom of your screen on most computers, and put your question in the chat, and I will transfer those questions on to the panelists if there is a time at the end of the presentation. So, Dianna, if you're able to begin first, I'd like to have you do that. Dianna Burns, once again, from the Legal Information Society of Nova Scotia. Dianna, you're on mute. You need to be unmuted. You shouldn't be muted, but I will double check. Aha. There, you should be able to unmute now. There you are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I will pull up my slides here, and hopefully that will be visible in a moment.
Perfect. Yes, good.
Great. Okay, so thank you so much for the invitation again, for Legal Information Society of Nova Scotia, myself, to be able to come and talk about this really, as you're mentioning, current and serious variety of issues. And we're just going to come at it from one aspect, powers of attorney, and ways to potentially think creatively about fraud prevention in relation to powers of attorney. So my aspects of the talk I really want to hit on are listed there. What are POAs? That's going to be a simple little overview, some updates to the law that came into effect in 2022, and how supported decision-making and planning for support and your donor rights is a really important aspect of fraud prevention. And then the duties of and obligations of an attorney are is going to bring us home, and hopefully is a point of conversation when we get into that discussion point section of the talk. So POAs, powers of attorney. A lot of you probably already have powers of attorney, I hope, and maybe you will get one after this talk. So the power of attorney in Nova Scotia is basically a contract of a sort. It's a legal document that allows you to appoint someone to make decisions with you on your behalf regarding finances and property. So it's a really powerful document that we have in Nova Scotia, particularly under these new amended aspects of the legislation that let you set out all kinds of instructions and details and information about how you want your finances handled. And in the legislation, we call the person making the document the donor, and we call the person doing the work, acting under that authority, the attorney. And in both cases, the language can be a little tricky for people, so I like to sort of set that out at the beginning. A donor who's making a power of attorney is not giving away anything. They're not giving away their stuff. They're not giving away their power. What they're doing is they're donating the authority to another person to be able to have someone step into their shoes if they're not able to, if they're away, if there's some other aspect that is impairing their ability to make those decisions or communicate those decisions about finances and property. An attorney is any person who's acting. It doesn't have to be a lawyer like myself. It's any attorney under a power of attorney is the person who has that power. So that's really the piece. They don't have to actually have any specific training. Oftentimes they're family members. They are people with other skills that are there to step in and help the donor. That's the purpose. We've had some pretty big updates in Nova Scotia. 2022, the Powers of Attorney Act had long discussed changes that actually came into effect. And so while we're awaiting regulations, there is some continuing conversations. Legal Information Society, some projects I'm working on and have been doing through the province really relate to how we can assist people when they're acting as a power of attorney, and assist donors and their support people when they have questions about what's happening with their powers of attorney. So at the moment, when we think about the changes, we can kind of put them into these four categories: formalities, supported decision-making, financial record keeping and accounting, and notice. And so that's really where we're going to kind of tie this into fraud prevention. So the additional formalities for powers of attorney, even if you have an attorney document that is pre-2022, it's likely still going to be effective. It's going to be grandfathered in. But if a person's making a new power of attorney, and in many cases, that's a really great idea, because there are additional things that people may want to include that they might not have 10, 15 years ago. And so an additional formalities now are going to match what we really have for wills. So the idea was to make it a little more transparent. So you're going to need two people who are both there at the same time signing with you. There is really this idea that, third parties like banks and other institutions might want to have an affidavit of execution. So basically confirming that those two witnesses were independent, that they were really there, they did really see this document be made. Previously, it just required one witness, and there were some concerns through the case law and through examples where that really just didn't seem to be sufficient enough to prevent a fraud. So they've updated the formalities. Another big change to the legislation has to do with more of a societal change too, supported decision-making. So now in the legislation, people are presumed to have capacity to make a power of attorney. You are presumed to have that ability to craft, to explain, to dictate in your power of attorney the way you want certain things done with your finances and your property. And so prior instructions now under these amendments in legislation are even more enforceable, even more powerful, because of this inclusion about support and capacity. So even if you are dealing with an enduring power of attorney, if you set up what you want done with the financial decision-making in your situation, you can expect that, and there's a couple of court cases, one quite forceful court case in Nova Scotia that confirmed that when you do set it up in advance, you will be expecting that that will happen and the court will support those decisions. So decisions that are financially reasonable to stay in the home, decisions about care related to the financing of care and financing of medical equipment and financing of certain things is going to be required, that you are basically going to be listened to, even if capacity starts to be a concern down the road, that you can build in your document those prior wishes, those prior instructions, and the court is going to support you, and the law itself now supports those decisions. As well, the courts and those sort of circumstances they were dealing with helped provide support for this type of decision. So an attorney now is bound to not unreasonably interfere with personal contact between the donor and supportive friends and family. A lot of times when we hear about perceptions of fraud and belief that someone's taking advantage, someone is using the donor's accounts for their own purposes, they have these concerns and they're isolating that person. That type of isolation now is specifically excluded. So unlike before, there was this common sort of practice, and some of you may have encountered it, where you could basically block people from having access to a care home, to a hospital, etc., on the basis of your power of attorney. Now it more resembles what we have in our Adult Capacity Decision-Making Act, where you have to, as the attorney, show that there's serious jeopardy, health concerns to the safety of that donor in order to actually be able to create any barriers. So in planning, the idea is that you can specifically include who you consider supportive family and friends. You can build that into your power of attorney. You can basically expect that what had been happening pre-2022, as this rolls out in the real world, will be less of an issue. Also, the extension of support includes now this term monitor. So it's been around in a lot of circles, especially commercial circles, for a long time, but in our powers of attorney now, we can name someone who's a monitor, and they are kind of like an additional advocate for the donor. They are able to raise their hand and ask questions. They are always allowed to visit, communicate with you. They are always available, if they are named, to ask questions of the attorney, to bring matters to the court if they're not getting answers from the attorney. And they can also expect to receive an accounting. They can basically play an additional supervisory role. So as it's described, right, they're monitoring. They don't have power to make actual financial decisions, but they have this additional ability to really be another person involved in the overall process of decision-making for a person who might no longer have capacity. When we think about duties and obligations, these have been really increased in the new legislation. So if you're acting as a power of attorney, you may have done things a certain way pre-2022. These do apply to you as an acting attorney, and these are what is going to be, these duties are what is going to be expected if you're asked to account, if you're asked to provide records. They've included now 2 new sections in the Powers of Attorney Act that really expect people to be transparent. The one word for the changes to this legislation is transparency. If you are acting for someone else and you're taking care of their finances, you should have a process. You should have your records available to be audited and reviewed. You should expect to be providing a full accounting annually to the donor. If not the donor, to the monitor, to immediate family. There's special series of a list of people who are entitled to access to that accounting. If the donor asks you a question about the finances, no longer can you delay that. You have to provide it to the donor when asked, an accounting of what you've done. And so they've really increased transparency. They've really provided an opportunity for more people to have a say, because there has been so much fraud in small and big ways with people's estates, that the idea here is to make sure that people are not acting, you know, as though they're being questioned for their own property. Instead, there's a person who requires this support from the power of attorney document, and that we expect that attorney acting for the donor to be able to provide that when necessary, when asked, at a variety of stages. And then another way they've updated this sort of duty has to do with notice. So previously, there wasn't a requirement that if someone started using a power of attorney, they had to tell anyone they were using it. So a lot of enduring powers of attorney or specific powers of attorney were effective immediately. And many still are, and there's a lot of great reasons why you want it to be effective immediately. But because of that, people didn't always know when the power of attorney was actually being pulled out and used. And so now, if your attorney is going to start using the document, there is a list of people they're going to have to address and say, hey, I'm now using the power of attorney. And you'll see from that little list, it really is focused on those people that you name, like the monitor in the document. It's focused on anyone who you specifically want to get notice that this power of attorney is being used. So if you have a trusted family member or friend who's not actually going to be the attorney because of, you know, the administrative work in that, for example, but they are someone you trust who would be able to stand up for you and ask questions and be there to support you. And so you might want to list them in the document to get notice. And that's really about understanding that the document's now in use. And so if there are concerns about it, there is a person you can go to. There is a process that you can follow. And that takes us to the end. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to the question part and hearing the other speakers, seeing what we can tie in about powers of attorney and other fraud prevention methods.
Great. Thank you, Diana, very much. And yes, we will take questions at the end after we've heard from all the speakers. So David, I think we'll go with you next to give Andrew the time that he needs to try to fix the issue. So David Harrison from the Nova Scotia Securities Commission. David, you're on mute. Oh, for some reason, I have to tell you, I have to ask you to mute before you can mute yourself, which is really strange, but there you are. I have asked you to unmute. You should be able to now.
There we go. Great. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
I'm going to open up my slides here as well, and we'll get started. Okay. Are you seeing the notes or the regular section?
We're seeing the notes.
Okay, I will switch that. Just 1 second. Sorry about this. Good now?
There, perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. As Bill said, my name is David Harrison. I'm the Investor Education and Communications Officer for the Nova Scotia Securities Commission. And the Nova Scotia Securities Commission is the Nova Scotia's security regulator. And part of our mandate is to provide investor education content to Nova Scotians, as well as to provide warnings and cautions around potential investment fraud and fraudulent activity here in the province of Nova Scotia. So to get started, I'm just going to talk about some brief overview numbers of investment fraud here in Canada, as unfortunately regulators and law enforcement have seen a tremendous increase in the number of investment fraud throughout Canada and here in Nova Scotia over the last number of years. For example, in 2023, according to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, reported to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre was just over $309 million worth of investment fraud to Canadians. That was up from $245 million in 2022 and $120 million in 2021. So as you can see, just by the numbers that are being reported, we've seen a tremendous increase in the number of losses to investment fraud in this country over the last 3 years. And the key word in those statements is reported, because we know as regulators and law enforcement that investment fraud remains vastly unreported in this country and throughout the world. So we estimate those numbers could be anywhere in the 10 to 15% range of what actually happens. So we're thinking multiply those numbers exponentially to even $1 billion of losses potentially in this country on an annual basis to investment fraud. When it comes to scam artists and fraudsters targeting older adults, unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or a little bit of money, you can become a target of investment fraud. As many older adults get closer to retirement or in retirement age, they can become targets of scam artists. They are targeted routinely because they either at least have a bit of a nest egg scored away that the scam artist can potentially prey on. They also prey on older adults' fears that they won't have enough money to retire, or upon their dreams of a better retirement to get them invested in so-called can't-miss investments. Knowing what frauds are most common and how to recognize them is a way for older adults to protect themselves. And we'll be talking about some of the frauds today in the presentation. Specifically, some of the more common frauds that we as regulators, when it comes to investment fraud anyway, see, unfortunately here in Nova Scotia, include things like Ponzi schemes. Ponzi schemes are where someone is offered an investment for either includes a substantial return or maybe just a little above average return without realizing they're actually not investing in anything at all. And any returns they receive will basically be being received payments back in their own money. Unfortunately, we do see Ponzi schemes quite commonly connected to a number of the other frauds we talk about in this section, including affinity fraud. Affinity fraud is when a fraudster targets a specific type of group, whether it be an ethnic group, religious community, such as a specific church, which unfortunately we have seen examples of here in Nova Scotia, a club or organization. And typically the person perpetrating the fraud is a member of that group, whether it be a church member, a member of that ethnic community. And unfortunately, they use the trust they've built up as a member of that community to unfortunately take advantage of people within that community. We have seen an increase in what are known as boiler room scams recently. A boiler room scam is when someone creates a fake company or some type of fake investment and sells investments within it to the public. And they go to great lengths to make these fake companies or fake investments look very real and legitimate, including we've seen tremendous people making fake websites. That's very common these days. Fake stationery around a specific business that they presume to be legitimate and exist, as well as creating fake media stories. And we're talking a little bit more about impersonation scams later that is often connected to boiler room type scams as well. Pump and dumps are types of scams where people will inflate the price of some type of security or investment to get people to invest, and then unfortunately pull the rug out for them when it gets to a certain amount. And then the security basically becomes unsellable and a tremendous loss. I'm just going over briefly what these are, but if you want more in-depth information on these types of scams, they are available on our website and social media channels, which I will share links to later on in the presentation. Binary options a few years ago was the most prevalent type of investment scam being run here in Canada and throughout North America. Thankfully, due to partnerships with regulators and law enforcement, we have seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of binary options where they are almost non-existent these days. And they've actually been taken over, cryptocurrency has taken over the #1 spot. But as frauds are seen to be cyclical, it is possible that binary options could return as a prevalent fraud in the future. So it is cognizant to be aware of what they are. And what they are is binary options are an actual legitimate investment that is closest to gambling as you can possibly get to investing. It's basically an all or nothing proposition. And a number of years ago, fraudsters were running fraudulent binary options trading platforms, hooking people into investing by having them automatically make money on their initial investments, and then unfortunately turning their tables on them. So no matter what they're invested in on these fraudulent platforms, people would lose all of their investment. And we're seeing people lose tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars for these type of fraudsters. Again, if you're looking for more information on binary options, there's information on our website about them. Moving on to cryptocurrency scams, which I'm going to touch on more closely later on in the presentation. Cryptocurrency scams are now the most prominent type of fraud we are seeing among the investment fraud sector here in Canada and throughout North America. And I'm going to touch on 3 specific ones later on that we have seen a considerable amount of that you should be aware of, and some of the flags to potentially spot them and hopefully avoid them. Lastly on our list there is recovery room scams. Recovery room scams are unfortunately when someone who has already been scammed by a fraudster is taken advantage of for a second time. And how this typically happens is someone may have lost, say, a considerable amount of money to, say, a Ponzi scheme about 6 months ago. And a long time has passed, and they've maybe finally come to terms with the fact that they're probably not going to get that money back. But out of the blue one day, they'll receive a call or an email or a text message potentially for someone claiming to be with a law enforcement agency, a regulator, a law firm, or some other type of professional person. And they will claim that they have tracked down the fraudster that defrauded them, and they've be able to recover their money. The only catch is that the money is locked away in some type of offshore account, or some kind of tax has to be paid to have the money released to them. And typically, if you tell someone that has lost a considerable amount of money, that you have found that money, you can get back to them, they will have no problem, unfortunately, paying some type of small fee or tax to potentially get that back. Of course, what the person doesn't know is that the person contacted them is another type of scammers, or it could potentially even be the person that initially scammed them. And because of that, they will have information around who they are, what they lost, exact details about the scam, again, to make it this recovery room scam look even more legitimate. Now we're going to go over briefly some of the red flags of investment fraud that you can potentially look for to help spot a fraud and potentially avoid it in the future. Not all of these red flags necessarily appear in every type of fraud, but usually at least 1 or 2 of them do show up, allowing you again to identify a fraud and hopefully avoid it and avoid losing money. The number 1 red flag being on the top of the list there, that you are promised a high return for low risk. This is the most prominent red flag among all investment fraud being offered to people out there. That the fraudster will promise you or guarantee you some type of high return for a low risk involvement. The thing to remember is there's no such thing as a high return, low risk investment. The opportunity for higher returns always comes along with higher risk. You can't have one go up without the other going up as well. So if someone is offering you what they would call a high risk, high return, low risk, or even no risk investment, that is a major red flag of fraud. And if you invest, there's a good chance you will lose all of, if not a portion of that money you invest. Another major red flag is that you must act now or given no time to think it over. These kind of tactics are used by fraudsters time and time again because they know if they give a person too much time to think over an investment opportunity that is fraudulent, they will most likely not invest in it. So if someone sets a time frame for you of like, this is a one-time offer, I need your money by tonight. I can only have 50 people invest. I have 49. You must get it now before someone takes your spot. Those are major red flags that something's not right, that the person doesn't want to give you time to think about the decision because it may be one that you do not want to actually make. Our third red flag there on the list is you are being given confidential or inside information. Fraudsters often like to make people think they're special. Not that you're not special, but in their instance, that you're getting special treatment from them or special information that no one else has that you can use to make a lot of money. And unfortunately, when it comes to these type of promises, they're often lies. Obviously, fraudsters lie with perpetuity. And the thing about confidential information is there's no way to verify it to determine if it's true, if it's correct, or made up or completely false information. Number 4 here on our list is there's no credible source that can validate the information. Earlier when we talked about boiler rooms, a big part of the boiler room fraud is that since it's a fake, non-existent company or investment, there's typically no credible source that can validate, again, that it exists, because it typically does not. So if you can find no credible source to validate investment other than those being provided to you by the person providing the investment, again, that is a major red flag. It could be fraudulent and, again, non-existent. Credible sources are not potentially a media story provided to you by the person's offering the investment, because as we'll show later on in the presentation, it's very easy to make doctored websites and doctored media type stories that do look very, very realistic. And lastly, in our red flag list is the firm or advisor or person offering the investment is not registered with the Securities Commission. To legally offer investments or investment advice in this province, you must be registered with the Nova Scotia Securities Commission to legally do so. And this registration can easily be checked through the National Research Registration Database, which lists every registered person throughout this country. There's a link to that on our website. It can also be found to the Canadian Securities Administrators website as well. So now I'm going to talk about 3 specific types of fraud that, again, we are seeing a dramatic increase here, again, not only in Nova Scotia, but throughout North America in the last couple of years. The first one being pig butchering scams. We have seen a dramatic increase in pig butchering scams in the last couple of years that have caused excessive losses to investors in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars lost to investors in this country, throughout Nova Scotia and throughout Canada. Just a few stats issued by around pig butchering scams through the FBI, for example. It doesn't matter what age demographic you fall under, whether it be young, old, or in between. People in every age demographic are being targeted by people running these pig butchering and romance type schemes. You can see on the screen there that actually 30 to 39-year-olds apparently in the United States are falling more to these frauds more often. But as you can see by the losses column, due to the fact that older persons typically have more money saved or able to invest, the number of losses succumbed to by those older persons is much more larger. As you can see, 3 billion compared to the 1.2 billion to the 30 to 39-year-olds. So these fraudsters, again, are targeting people of all ages, but unfortunately, older people have been susceptible to larger losses due to the fact that they have more to lose. We issued a warning around these pig butchering type scams in January of 2023. You may have seen on our website, you may have seen some of the news coverage we received for. As you can see, some of those headlines, at the time, we had reportings of over $750,000 lost to these types of pig butchering scams. Since then, we know that has been in excess of millions of dollars in this province, unfortunately. The way these pig butchering scams typically work is you receive an unsolicited text message or message through some type of app or social media from a person you don't know, trying to develop a personal relationship with you. This could potentially be romantic, or it could just be a friendly type relationship. If they're successful in doing so, somewhere down the line, could be weeks or months, this is typically some type of a long con game. They will talk about how they've recently made considerable amounts of money through some type of cryptocurrency or crypto asset investment. And they will try and talk you to investing to make it add a new revenue stream for you, or to make more money because times are tough and heightened inflation. They will often play on that type of message as well. And they'll try and talk you into investing a small amount initially, a couple $100, for example, which may not be that risky to certain people. What they will do, if you agree to invest, they will send you a link to some type of platform, or get you to download some type of software to connect to some type of investing platform. Unbeknownst to you that this platform is fraudulent and no investment is actually going to take place. But you will invest your $100 to $200, and a few weeks later, potentially you will be sent a balance sheet or some type of statement showing that your minimal investment has grown considerably in a short period of time. For example, maybe your $100 is now worth $2,000. And these great so-called gains, which again are completely fictitious and don't exist, will be used by your new friend to try and talk you to investing considerably more. For example, to say, oh, you invested $100, made $1,000. If you'd invested $1,000, you'd have tens of thousands of dollars right now. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been talked to investing considerable amounts, and again, in the hundreds of thousands of dollar range. A lot of people are being talked into taking out lines of credit or maxing out credit cards to invest in these types of unfortunate pig butchering scams. The way that name comes from is they're fattening up the pig. And eventually, when a person will look to withdraw their money, they will not be able to do so. That person will cut off contact and they will no longer receive access to the platform. Essentially, all of their money has been stolen because none of it was actually invested in the first place. Another type of scam we're seeing a considerable increase in lately is what is known as impersonation scams. An impersonation scam is when fraudsters use a famous face, typically a celebrity or someone who's infamous for being very rich or wealthy or influential, to promote some type of investment scheme. For example, in the middle of the screen there, you'll see an image of Elon Musk. This is a screen capture of a video that was originally placed on YouTube by scam artists. It has since been taken down by YouTube Security, but not before it was viewed over 445,000 times. In this video, it was a deep fake video of an interview that reportedly took place between Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson at some type of conference. And as a deep fake video, this interview never took place, and the things he's talking about in the video never existed. For example, what we were mentioning in the video was that Elon Musk supposedly created some type of AI quantum investing platform where it would be 90% effective at picking stocks and making money. Basically guaranteed money that you would get for basically doing nothing except for downloading some type of software being offered. Again, the interview was fake. The AI software is completely fake. But unfortunately, we saw a number of people comment on the video providing their contact information, asking for information on how to invest right away. This video that we are talking about may have been taken down, but is continually being posted again and again on other social media channels. For example, a woman in Ontario a few weeks ago watched a similar video that had Elon Musk in it being interviewed talking about this AI stock kicking tool, and she and her husband lost over $110,000. They're basically their life savings by investing in this fraudulent company. On this other side of the screen there, you'll see pictures of Arlene Dickinson. You may be familiar with her from the show Dragon's Den on CBC. These pictures were taken from her our LinkedIn profile, and she shared them on her LinkedIn profile a number of months ago to warn people that her face, her name, her influential name was used in promotions for fake investments and fake investment opportunities in companies. Again, she was just warning people saying, I am not contributing to these investments. I have no connection to these people. And if you invest with these people, you'll most likely never see your money again. People like Elon Musk, Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre, Warren Buffett, people, influential names that have a lot of money are used again in these type of impersonation scams. So if you see an ad on social media, a video on some type of social media channel, or even an ad on a Google site, for example, there's a good chance that that's a fraud. And if you connect with those people, they will most likely not only potentially steal your money, but also steal vital information that could lead to identity theft as well. The last type of very prominent fraud I want to talk about that we are seeing a lot is the use of fraudulent trading websites, most often connected to some type of crypto asset investing. These fraudulent trading websites are being advertised again all over the internet, whether it be on websites, forums, and social media channels, getting people to use these platforms to invest in crypto assets. None of these websites are registered, and none of them actually provide any type of investment services. They're complete smokescreens. And to try and combat these fraudulent trading websites, again, which we've seen a tremendous amount of in the last number of years, for Fraud Prevention Month this month, we have created our own fraudulent trading website, novacrypto.ca, to mimic these websites. We've done some advertising for the last number of weeks, both online and on billboards here in Halifax. You may have seen them. So if people go to this Nova Crypto site, it completely mimics a number of these real fraudulent sites we've been warning people about for the last number of years. If you were to click on any link on our fraudulent website around depositing or registering an account or downloading a trading app, it will connect to our educational site housed on the Nova Scotia Securities website, letting you know this is a fake website. If this was an actual fraudulent website and you clicked on one of those links, you will be on your first step to potentially losing all of your investment. Also in that reveal page, it lists things about red flags to look for in these websites to determine, again, if they're fake or not, as well as ways to potentially invest in crypto that is more safe, more registered and under purveyance of regulators like us. So if you want more information on this campaign, which will be officially launching on March 18th to the public, go to novacrypto.ca, take a look at it. Again, it mimics these fraudulent trading websites pretty spot on. We took structure from them, language from them, text from them. Click on a link and it'll take you to our webpage where, again, we can get some educational information around these fraudulent websites and crypto investing in general. We also issued an alert in partnership with the HRP, Halifax Regional Police and RCMP at the end of last year, talking about all of the 3 frauds I've mentioned, as well as unregistered fraudulent crypto trading platforms. So if you want more information on that release, it is available on our website, dated December 19th of last year. We also received some great media attention on that as well, thankfully. Lastly, I just want to touch on some of the crypto fraud warnings. Some of them are similar to the red flags we talked about earlier, but just some of the things you can look at if you're thinking of investing in crypto, or you know friends or family that are, to make sure they're potentially not investing in fraudulent investments. Things like look out for guarantees of high returns with little or no risk. Again, similar to that red flag we talked about earlier. Always refuse remote access to your computer. For example, a number of people running these crypto scams offer to take remote access to people's computer to make investments for them or to help install software for them. This is very dangerous because it allows them access to potential personal information or potential financial information that you may not even know is housed on your computer. Be wary of crypto asset recovery offers. When we talked about earlier about those recovery room type scams. Don't invest in anything you can't understand. Crypto assets may be very receiving a lot of media attention and a lot of online attention, but they're still very complicated and complex and not fully understood by a lot of people. And if you don't fully understand what they are and how they work, they may not be the investment for you potentially. Number 4, be mindful that requests for wire transfers or for crypto assets to be sent to other crypto platforms or unknown accounts is not normal. Just like someone asking you to wire transfer money outside of the Canadian jurisdiction, someone asking you to transfer your crypto assets from your wallet to theirs is very suspect, because once it's outside of your wallet, the chances of you getting it back are pretty much 0 due to the security features built into those type of wallets. And lastly, conduct your due diligence if you're thinking of investing in any type of coins, tokens, or crypto-related project or website, for example. Because as we know and as we've seen, this type of industry, unfortunately, is rife with fraud. There's people out there just creating fake coins, fake tokens, fake projects, just to take people's so-called investment money and then run away with it. And we've seen that, unfortunately, increasing considerably, again, over the last number of years. And lastly, when it comes to any type of investment, whether it's crypto-related or more traditional, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And think twice before investing in anything. Just a quick rundown. If you want more information on the Commission or any of the links I've talked about, we're at nssc.novascotia.ca. If you have any questions after today you didn't get a chance to ask or didn't think to ask, our general inquiries email is there on the screen. We're also, again, on social media channels. We're on X, formerly Twitter. We're on YouTube, where we have about 50 plus short 1 to 5 minute animated videos. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn under Nova Scotia Securities Commission. So that's what I have to talk about today. I'm looking forward to any questions anyone might have when we get to the questions section.
Good. Thank you very much, David. What a thorough coverage of, and I'm amazed. Roy and I have been involved talking about scams and frauds, as I said, for 20 years, and I've never seen the list as long as it seems to be this year. And we haven't even heard from Andrew Joyce yet. Andrew Joyce is joining us, and happy to say that he's also a computer expert and has been able to get his video working. So, Andrew, I'll turn it over to you to be our final speaker this afternoon. And thank you for your hard work and diligence and high blood pressure in the last half hour.
Just a little test. I'm just wondering if you can hear me.
You certainly can.
Okay, that's perfect. So I only got it half right here. I can't share anything with you, so I can't share with you my PowerPoint. I apologize to everyone for that. Zoom just doesn't work on RCMP computers, and then I tried to pull in my personal computer here, and I'm not having much luck with my work thumb drive in my personal computer. So basically, I'm gonna go with what I have via audio, essentially with seeing my mug while I'm doing it. I think we may have been better off with just my audio, but we'll go from there.
One of the things we could talk about doing, if you like, is when we send out the link, we could send a copy of your PowerPoint if you'd like us to do that.
Yeah, that would be fine to do exactly that, and if
Great.
you maybe post some images as well. Basically,
Exactly.
what I have, like everything David said, is just bang right on. It's pretty in-depth investment knowledge for all viewers and listeners here today. Just sage advice there that has been provided. I'm not going to add much more. Certainly along the investment lines than what David has provided. As I say, has been very thorough. I will provide a few statistics for Nova Scotians in the sense that I urge everyone to go to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. If you go to that site, you'll be able to see a lot of discussion or a lot of clarity added to the various scams that are out there. And as has been alluded to, is that there are hundreds of them out there, and they're really some of them are mind-boggling. In Nova Scotia alone, last year in 2023, we were reported to have lost to scammers of $7.3 million. That was reported. Now, studies have shown that the actual number is a lot higher than the reported figures. So that is very alarming, certainly to the police and to everybody, I think, that learns about it. But everybody, I think, tuned in today recognizes that there's a problem. So I'm not going to go too much in depth about that either. I will highlight the fact that the investment scams that David was talking about have really shot up here in Nova Scotia. They were high to begin with, but they've gone up to almost $5 million. So more than half of all the scams in Nova Scotia are those of investment scams. All those things that David was talking about are very applicable to that. Along with the other scams that are involved, I had my top 8: investment scams, service scams, romance scams, spear phishing scams, job application scams, extortion scams, emergency scams like the grandparent scam. Two of the things that I would like to highlight, though, is what David spoke of with the investment scams and the romance scams, because what we are finding is that there is a direct link between the two scams, the romance scams and the investment scams. Essentially, the romance scam, or sometimes we even refer to it as a bromance scam, is used by the scammers to gain trust off the prey. And by gaining one's trust, they lower their guard and essentially start believing everything that their friend or their love interest is saying and accept their guidance almost at will. And so what we are finding is that persons that are going online either to find romance or basically to find people with similar interests, whether it's like hobby interests like collecting cars or collecting various other things or whatever sewing groups, that kind of thing. Person, basically you'll get a message, an unsolicited message from somebody, and a friendship, I use that in quotations, begins, and then the friendship evolves to a point where this person is suggesting investment advice or pointing you in directions to somebody to offer you investment advice, and then that's where the hook begins, and your trust has gone down, or your trust basically has gone up for that person, and you start putting your life savings into an investment that they have put you onto. That's the connection that we are seeing in the police world through what we call the romance or bromance scams into the investment scams, and one of the big reasons why it has increased so much over the last year. What I urge everyone to do is, again, go to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, read about the various scams, learn, they have drop downs on how to protect yourself, how to report a fraud, and what to do if you were a victim. They also provide lots of statistics, some of the statistics that I've just spoke of. What I'd like to basically emphasize to you all today is how essentially can you recognize a scam, all the hundreds of scams that are out there, and how do you protect yourself by recognizing it? The key part is, of course, is recognizing the scam. What we have found is essentially there are 5 red flags that are common in 99.9% of the scams, and it often starts with the first red flag is that unsolicited, unknown contact. So you get a pop-up, or you get this here text message that's out of the blue, and they begin a conversation with you, essentially to start to gain your trust, to have you try to believe that they are somebody other than who they really are, at being a scammer. So beware of that unsolicited, unknown contact. So you get a text message out of the blue, or a pop-up message out of the blue. Be on your guard. You didn't ask for that message. You didn't ask for that phone call. Put your guard up and keep it up until you are very, very sure who you are dealing with. Because on the other end, in this here digital world, the other end is not who you actually believe that it is. Almost more often than not, especially when they are asking you to open up your wallet. That's when your guard should be really up, but unfortunately, they use things to mask their identity and make you feel at ease to drop your guard. Whether it's through something called spoofing, where you receive a phone call or text message from a local number, and it is most often not local, but it looks on your call display to be local. So therefore, you think, okay, this is a local call, my guard naturally comes down somewhat. That is what they call spoofing. So don't trust your call display. Just because you see what appears to be a local number, it may very well not be. As David alluded to earlier about deep fake technology, like voice recognition and that kind of thing, where all they need now is seconds of somebody's voice. Like my voice is now online. All a scammer needs is a couple seconds of my voice, and then they can put that into a computer program and make words sound like they're coming from me to say anything that they want. So now you receive a phone call, you can't even trust the voice on the other end. That is all basically designed for you to drop your guard and for you to trust that scammer. So number 1 is the unsolicited, unknown contact. Number 2 red flag is the receiving a threat. We in Canada here, our businesses and our government institutions, we don't threaten you to open up your wallet. That just does not happen in this country. So an easy red flag, if you're getting some kind of a message that for you to send money or send personal information, otherwise the police or the border agency are going to come and do something negative to you. That right away is a scam. So the third thing we see as a red flag, David alluded to this here as well, is the urgency factor. They don't want you to think, essentially. So anytime that you're being posed with a decision, especially if the decision involves you opening up your wallet, we strongly urge you to step back and say, let's cool the jets here a little bit. Let me phone a friend, or let me talk to somebody else who I trust their advice to, and then go over the situation with them. So urgency is the number 3 red flag that we want you to be conscious of. The other matter is payment. 4th red flag is payment. If you receive, no matter how grand the story is, and the stories are grand because these fraudsters are very, very good at what they do. They're world class, and you feel like you may be dealing with one person, but often the person on the other end is a whole team of persons. People that specialize in various ends off the fraud. So anytime that you receive a message and they are asking you to send a gift card or cryptocurrency or wire transfer money, you are being scammed. Without a doubt, you are being scammed. So be conscious of that one. That's a somewhat easy one, no matter how grand the story is if you receive a request for payment by pay somebody by a gift card or cryptocurrency or wire, that if you don't know anything else, know that, and that'll save you from a lot of the frauds that are happening out there. Not them all, but it'll save you from some. The number 5 is what we call the unavailable red flag. So they're either unavailable to show you a rental unit, or they're unavailable to close a transaction for a product that you're looking to buy in a classified section online. But if you send a down payment, they will of course hold it for you. And if you do send that down payment, quite often it's gone, and of course you don't have the rental unit or the product that you're looking for. But it is also present in what we call the romance scams. Their story again is always good. They tick all your boxes. You're interested in them. You wonder where they were for the majority of your life, because they're a perfect match. But the only thing of it is that they are unavailable. Often we meet these persons on dating sites, and or we can meet them on various other chat groups. And the key feature here is, if you have met somebody like that and they are unavailable, okay, fine. But at the time when it comes, when they're asking you to disclose your personal information, whether your banking information, your SIN number, to use your bank account, or if they're asking you to open up your wallet to send them some cash, you are being scammed. 100%, you are being scammed. Those are some of the factors, or the 5 basically red flags that I have found in more than 30 years of policing that are present in 99% of all the frauds that I have seen through all those years. Once again, beware of somebody who you've met online, whether it's a friendship or a romance, and the conversation is going towards what you are going to do with your hard-earned money that you maybe be saved up for retirement, getting ready to retire, or you already are, and then they're giving you investment advice. As the tips that David described to you, there's no sense in me repeating those. They're very, very good. They work. You must do your due diligence if you're in the investment game. And as David also said, invest in something that you understand. And if you don't understand it, you may want to stay away from it. Those are the words actually of Warren Buffett, who most here are probably fully aware of who he is. Very sage investor, probably the best all time ever. If again you don't understand something, then find something else. And as was mentioned earlier, these persons are willing to teach you all about cryptocurrency. They're willing to access your computer and do it for you. We urge you to stay away from that kind of thing. All of those things that I have come across, allowing people to access your computer to allow you to make investments, or to go on and counsel you on how to set up wallets and that kind of thing, it always ends in a very, very sad story. And I can't say enough the sadness and the desperation and the tragedy that these scammers have created for Nova Scotians in the last number of years that I have been very involved in it all. I think that's about all I have essentially to share with you today. I urge you, if the police are putting something on locally in a fraud prevention presentation, I urge you to go and participate in it. I also urge you to speak to your friends and family and colleagues about investment scams, and all kind of scams. And those 5 things that that I have discussed with you here today, sharing and making us all aware with our parents, with our kids, with our colleagues, I think is really our only avenue out for this here that is really plaguing our nation and just sucking the wealth individually and really out of our provinces and country. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very, very much. And sage advice for sure. We do have some questions that are in the chat. And if you have any questions, excuse me, please put them into the chat. I don't know who wants to take this first one, but when, and I think it was you, David, we're talking about online scams and not clicking on documents. We were asked by Virginia, can scams be sent in the form of PDF documents, or are PDF documents secure?
I wouldn't say they're necessarily secure because you can embed a link in a PDF. It depends what this link is necessarily going to and what the PDF is, who sent it to you and what it's about. I would recommend if you receive anything from a person you don't know, or an email you don't know, or a company you don't know, or anyone saying they're with a bank or any other organization, do not click on links in anything sent you that way. Go to the organization's main page, for example, if you receive it from a bank or Amazon or another company, go to that company's or organization's webpage directly. Don't use a link to get to it. Go to it directly and then log into your account if you have one, if they say something's wrong with it, or call the call center or the company directly. Do not use links from emails you think may be suspect. It's always better just to find that contact information on your own and use that to be ensure you know, one, you're talking to the person you're supposed to talk to, and you're going exactly directly to the source instead of having someone direct you to it.
Great, thank you. Andrew, this might be appropriate for you. Someone said they've just received an email from Amazon telling them their account has been held because information wasn't provided, but they don't even have an Amazon account. Is this typical?
Yeah, we all get those kind of texts and emails for sure. I mean, that the receiver of this particular message is very fortunate in the sense that she knows she doesn't have an Amazon account, so she knows right away that it is fake and somebody is trying to defraud her. The problem arises if you do have an Amazon account. What do you do? Like, do you open it up, or like it certainly gets your heart racing a little bit if you think something that you're waiting for or you're shopping for is now in jeopardy. So what we urge you to do is, if you're receiving a text message or any communication, an email, and you are suspect, just like David has said, go outside of that message and backdoor it yourself. Like go to their website or their telephone number out of a telephone book and contact them that way and check on the status of what your situation could be.
Okay, thank you. Another question is about blocking telephone numbers. People keep this person keeps receiving calls that they know are a scam. They try to block the numbers, but then the same calls come in from other numbers. Is there anything you can do about those calls that I know at our house we get about 6 o'clock every night?
Yeah, I'm not sure who wants to go after that one, but I'll start, and maybe others can chime in if they wish. But a lot of that, you may want to contact your phone provider. They have some measures out there, but it really is a cat and mouse game of technology. The scammers just seem to be one step ahead of the authorities in that race. It's been going on now for 20 years for sure. Some years, some days seem to be worse than others for sure.
All right, anybody else want to comment on the annoying calls that we all get?
No, I don't think I have anything to add more than Andrew did. Unfortunately, no matter how many calls you block, if they keep spoofing different numbers, they'll continue to probably get through as best you can. But
Hey, Diana, one for you here, and I see we got you unmuted. That's good. This person says, to make it brief, they have a relative in another province who seems to have different rules from what you described. Can these be very different from province to province?
Yeah, great. There are different pieces of legislation and different rules that apply because at the heart of private law in powers of attorney, each province and territory has their own jurisdiction. So the one thing that unites them is fraud, because the criminal code has something to say about theft that occurs underneath the use of a power of attorney. And so I'd like to just use this as maybe an opportunity to connect. A power of attorney is usually someone who's close to you. It's usually someone who's close to home. It's usually not a faceless person. But what our courts have said is if a person is in that trusted position and they are not acting reasonably, they are buying crypto with your property under the authority of a power of attorney, that's not going to be protected. That is likely going to be found to be not a prudent trustee. That is going to be found to be their liability and potentially a 331 theft under the criminal code. So to tie that piece together, a power of attorney is probably not, it's not going to be someone anonymous unless you appoint a corporate power of attorney. It's going to be a family friend. They're going to be making decisions and stepping into your shoes. And so the important piece to remember is if people are taking this sort of laissez-faire, easygoing attitude towards your property, and they are risking these questionable securities type things like crypto, like these other frauds, and using your accounts that way, they are exposing themselves because they're exposing you. So it is something to also sort of consider that if you do grant power of attorney to someone, they are going to be in a role of authority that's going to be able to access your money, your stuff, and sign for you. And we've had stories of lines of credit that are opened against people's houses, home equity lines, signed off by powers of attorney. And this is a child. This is an adult child. This is someone who's close in family relation to you. And so that sort of elder abuse angle as well plays into this. And so there's all of the unknowns, which is such a huge issue, but there's also an even larger sort of connected to questions of, frankly, domestic violence and abuse of personal relationships, where you have someone who's received power of attorney and now they're taking that financial abuse step a bit further. So just to kind of connect all that too, we all do really have to make sure we have support around ourselves. It's not just one person, that we need a team, and we need to make sure that we have a team. So when we do come across things that are confusing or there's something happening, that we know we have some people to reach out and ask questions for us. Just like to add that in there.
Good. Thank you very much. That seems to be all the questions that we have from our viewers at the moment, but I would like each of you, if you would, I know that, people will hear this today and then a month from now, something they'll come up and they'll say, how can I get more information? So could each of you, starting with Dianna, how do people learn more about the Legal Information Society? And I know you have materials, your website. Tell us a little bit about how they get more information about the LIS.
Yeah, so definitely visit our website, legalinfo.org. It's Nova Scotia specific and connects to a variety of resources, including Nova Scotia Securities Commission and other fraud warnings. We have a variety of materials that are hard copy and available virtually that people can access. We're going to be going through some expos in Bridgewater, and we're going to be in a few other locations over the next few months, specifically talking about these types of issues related to delegated decision making. So yeah, feel free to access our website, and we'll have some materials and links that we can provide as well.
Good. I will put the main link in the information when this recorded video is shared with everyone. David, not only how to get in touch, but what if somebody thinks they're being scammed in one of the areas that you're responsible for? Do you want to hear about it?
Sure, yeah. I said, if you believe that you or a loved one or a friend is a victim of investment fraud or has been approached by a fraudster, which is even better that you haven't contacted them, there is a complaint form on our website that is directed to our enforcement people, that they will review what information you send them and get back to you as quickly as possible. There's also a 1855 number to our enforcement people on our website where you can call to report those types of scams or receive more information. If you're approached by someone you believe is offering you that might be a fraud or some type of fraudulent investment.
Great, thank you. And Andrew, how about the police forces?
Yeah, well, again, as I had mentioned earlier, I urge all listeners and viewers to go to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center website. You know, Google Canadian Anti-Fraud Center or CAFC, and go there. You'll learn about different type of scams. You'll learn how to protect yourself, and how to report a fraud, and what to do if you are a victim. They'll have all that information there for you at your leisure to have a look through, and basically go from there. And again, talk to everybody in your life about this topic. It's so important. I don't understand why it is not even more important. We seem to talk about it a lot in the month of March, but fraud is a 24/7, 365 activity business for some countries, and certainly for some criminal groups, and us Canadians. We are being victimized more and more each year, and hoping by educating ourselves, we will be able to, be in a better position to protect ourselves.
Very good. Well, thank you. There's one type of fraud that we didn't talk about today, but that's a good thing because we have another webinar coming up about it, and that's moving frauds, frauds and scams people get involved with when they're moving. Many seniors move from the house into an apartment, haven't moved for 50 years and aren't sure of the costs and everything else. So with the Canadian Association of Movers, CARP is doing a webinar on moving scams during Move Seniors Safely Week. And that'll be on March the 27th. And we'll send everybody who's registered for this event information on that event being hosted by Nancy Irvin, a former resident of Nova Scotia, who now is the CEO of the Canadian Movers Association. We'll send you that information. So before I close off, Roy, do you have anything to add?
No, I just want to thank the presenters for their wonderful presentations. And boy, there's sure a lot of information there. And it's good to have the contact info so that we can follow up if we are approached and whatnot. So thank you, panelists, so very much.
Good. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching today and joining us. Watch our CARP Nova Scotia website for other webinars. They happen almost monthly, year-round. And a special thank you to Dianna Burns, David Harrison, and Andrew Joyce. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.